Welcome to 30 Minutes of Faith. We're very happy today to have Monty Johnson with us. He's a member of the Board of Trustees of the Interfaith Council of Greater Sacramento and a member of the Sacramento Valley Unification Church. Thank you for joining us.
You're welcome.
We want our viewers to know more about you, so let's start with where you were born and raised.
Born in Salt Lake City, Utah. On my father's mother's side, there were members of the LDS Church, and I was baptized as a young age there. But in terms of being raised, my dad was in the military, in the Marines, and we moved my calculation is during most of my life, about every 18 months, I've been moved from one place to another. Started out that way and just kind of continued.
And you just figured that was a way of life, or was that hard?
It was hard. I remember it being hard as a youngster, moving to a new school and then trying to fit in and make friends and figure out what to do, that kind of thing.
Did you want to grow up and be a Marine?
I always thought that it would be, I kind of liked the military, kind of life, but I never got into it.
Where'd you graduate from high school?
Long Beach, California, 1961, Millikan, R.A. Millikan High School. Just this year went to my 50th high school reunion.
What was the mascot?
The mascot's a ram, from the initials, R.A.M.
Oh, that didn't register with you.
Yeah, well, and it was a new school. I was in about the second or third class of that high school.
And after high school, then what?
Then, first I went to UCLA, started studying pre-dentistry. So my plan was to get trained and go to dental school.
Let me back up another second or two. Do you have brothers and sisters?
Oh yeah, 2 sisters. That's it. I'm the oldest of the siblings. So.
And are they both living?
They're both living, yes. One currently lives in Los Alamos, New Mexico, and the other in Atlanta, Georgia.
Ah. Now I know your father's alive because you and I've talked,
right.
And he's elderly and you're his caregiver. Is your mother still living?
Right, yeah. She lives in Laramie, Wyoming. They divorced back in about the late 60s, and it was rough. It was rough for them, and it was rough for the children, even though we were older at the time, and we got kind of drug into it's like who's the bad guy, who's the good guy kind of, problem with what happens with a lot of divorces, and so.
Did you have religion in your home growing up?
Not that much. When we lived in Utah, I went to some of the LDS study classes, but my dad kind of rebelled against that whole thing, and he decided to go into a study of psychology, and kind of decided that he would make more science, become more of a humanist kind of worldview, or to adopt a kind of a more humanist worldview.
And so, did you keep practicing religion through adolescence and young adulthood?
No, through adolescence, I tried several different churches to see if I could, if I wanted to stay with them or not. But I don't know. I think I just followed my dad's idea and went into kind of a science field.
So then when did you come back to a organized church?
It wasn't until long afterwards I finished my PhD in microbiology in '74, but it was during that last year of finishing that I started becoming aware that science wasn't, couldn't explain all aspects of life like I had hoped that it would. And then I started out with looking into the Eastern religions and got involved a little bit in Buddhism, did a year's worth of study in some Native American type religion, went out and did my visioning class out in the desert, fasting. And
Where was that?
that was in Texas. I had taken in. It's interesting how one's life develops with all of this sort of thing. I had written a grant proposal for a postdoctoral, grant funding, but that year, it was in 1973, I think. For some reason, the Congress that year, the U.S. Congress didn't pass their budget in time, and so my funding was delayed for a year. So I got to go to Texas and got a job at University of Texas for a year there, and pursued religious, kind of spiritual search. So I spent, instead of doing that much lab work, really, I was doing more spiritual kind of work. And it was quite interesting because University of Texas in Austin, Texas at that time was full of different spiritual, groups, religious groups, spiritual groups, and they had, many of them had tables set up out in the center lawn area, and a person could go and talk with different group and make arrangements to go spend time with them, and then try to find. I was designated by my family because we were sharing a house with my sister during that time. My sister, her husband was a university professor at the University of Texas, and I was doing the postdoc at University of Texas, and they kind of assigned me the task to kind of go search out, see what looks like, the best, or the most interesting, or the thing that seems to fit my worldview and our worldview best. And that's where, towards the end of that year, in that April, I came across the Unification Church. And that was, in a way, it was almost a bit of a surprise for me because it's a Christian based group, and I had already decided, well, I wasn't sure that, that Christianity was the right thing for me. I kind of liked the Eastern religions better, but the message that I found there was a very complete explanation of what I was, looking for. Kind of explained the role of science in our world, in our present-day world. Explained a little bit about a lot about the role of God and moral values and the importance of the family. And
tell us some more about Reverend Moon.
Reverend Moon is the founder of the Unification Church. He was born in 1920 in Korea, just after the end of the First World War. And he, his start of his kind of religious work, I guess, started when he was in the age of 16. He had a spiritual encounter with Jesus and was led to believe that he needed to complete Jesus' mission here on earth. And so he has been working ceaselessly and tirelessly since then. He's accomplished just an amazing amount of work since then.
Is he still living?
Right, yeah, he's still living. So what, coming up on 91 now, I guess, huh? 92. And he still is dynamic. speaking. You know, he doesn't speak as much as he used to, but he's still. He'll be in. Going to be in Chicago this week. They're having an interfaith workshop of getting people, ministers, clergy, people from different faiths. From Sacramento, we have an Imam Cosby going up to that workshop. So some representative of Islam going
Now,
there.
when I went to church at your church some months ago, and they had the live feed from New York City, I believe it was, that was his daughter who sort of took the lead, was it not?
Right, yeah. Now, she's been given the role of what they call the senior pastor for the United States of America. And so she's taking the lead in, in the United States. And then her younger brother has been given the role of leading the international movement. And so the, kind of like the reins of kind of everyday power are being shifted to the kids, to what they call, they're the true children. This is the true families. Those are the words that we
seems
use for
natural
that.
and normal. How long have you been attending church in Sacramento?
It's been about 4 years, I think. Yeah, I took a leave of absence for quite a few years and went through some rough times during that time. And then we moved to Sacramento, and I decided it was time to find religion again.
And was that a good decision?
Yeah, it's been really good. It's been, and my wife is, she was a little skeptical about it because she was very firmly a kind of humanist. She's a lawyer that works for the disability rights, does civil rights law, and but when I got involved with the Sacramento Valley Unification Church, she agreed to come with me to church services, and then at the same time she decided that she would restart a Buddhist practice that she had done a little bit, for some previous years, and so she's been doing that. We've been doing that together. We guide a meditation group on Thursday nights. That's under the guidance of a Caverly Morgan, that she had established this place called One House of Peace. And she came out of the tradition of Sherry Huber. I think she studied under Sherry Huber for a while. So we're doing Buddhism and Unification Church work and interfaith.
And how did you come to the Interfaith Council?
Well, it was just suggested by our pastor, Charles DeWatteville, who was on the board here before, and one of our important missions, as a member, in the Unification Church, is to do interfaith work and to interact with people from different faith backgrounds, because we a very firm conviction that the world, in order to kind of bring the kingdom of heaven to earth, all of the religions have to find some commonality, and we see that interdependence, mutual prosperity, and universally shared values are the three important factors that have to be put into place to, bring about a world of peace.
It would be wonderful if every human on the earth practiced a universal approach to morality and goodness and decency.
Yes, that's right, yeah.
Let's see, tell us more about your wife, and do you have children, and more about family?
Well, we should back up a little bit. I was married to a wonderful lady named Vicky. Maiden name was Swanson. And we got married in 1964, and we have 2 children from that marriage. But she died of breast cancer in 1991. And so Margaret is my second wife.
Do you have grandchildren?
And we have grandchildren, yes. She has a daughter, lives in Redding, Redding, California. And they have 3 up there. And then my daughter, from the first marriage, has 3 children. She lives in Los Alamos, New Mexico. And then my son has a daughter, and he lives in Arlington, Massachusetts.
Would you say your children were raised in a religious home?
It was religion, it was largely religious home. It wasn't as strongly traditional religious as I would do it, if I was doing it now.
And where did you and Margaret meet?
Well, we first met long back at Southern Illinois University back in the 70s. And then we reconnected in about 1995. And
we've had her here and visited with her. She's
Yeah.
a lovely woman.
Oh, right, yeah. I hope.
And she has had polio since childhood?
Right, yeah. She contracted polio the year before they came out with the vaccine. So it was 1954. She was 4 years old, and and the polio virus disables a lot of the motor neural functions of the body, and you never know from person to person how it's what kind of effect it's going to have. And she went through that whole thing, going to Warm Springs, that Franklin Delano Roosevelt had gone to, and so she always has felt a strong connection to FDR in that way. And it's interesting that all polio survivors have type A, high achieving personalities. Something about just fighting and dealing with that condition has kind of either it selected them or it conditioned them or in some way or another. That's quite interesting how that happened.
You and I have talked before about the sugar cubes and the shots and things
right.
that we took as children. Is your wife's attitude about life and where she is strong, or has that been difficult and hard?
Well, she talks the way she talks about the different surgeries that she had to go through to, because of the changes in muscle growth, the bones don't grow appropriately, and so they did quite some severe treatments back then. And then I guess she experienced a fair amount of discrimination because of people avoiding her, not wanting to, being involved or be associated with somebody with a communicable disease, which of course it doesn't communicate after some period of time, but a lot of people don't know that. And then the whole thing of being disabled, it's definitely had a tremendous impact on her. But she, excuse me, I might get teared up here a bit, but
that's okay. Meekness is not a weakness, Monty. Meekness is a strength.
But anyway, she doesn't. She refuses to consider herself to be disabled in the sense of, she could take you know, go get Social Security disability, or, you know, there's various programs that she could qualify for, but as long as she can work.
Well, she's a lovely woman and obviously very bright and very talented. How long has she been an attorney?
She got her, she went to law school in the 80s, and I think it was, if I remember, I'm thinking 87 that she passed her California bar. And so she, you know, at kind of midlife, decided to go back and
No, good for her.
get a law degree.
Let's jump back to President Roosevelt for a minute.
Oh, okay.
My stepfather spent 3.5 years in the South Pacific during the Second World War.
Ah,
And along about summer of 1944, I think it was, he was on Bougainville, New Caledonia, you know, south of Indonesia. And Eleanor Roosevelt came to visit the troops.
mm-hmm.
And of course, FDR had been president for a good long time, and
Yeah.
these kids had known him as their president. So they're standing out on this old dirt flight line, and along walks the First Lady, and she wants to talk to each of them, and she asked him what his name was. She had a little notebook.
Mm-hmm.
Where are you from? How long have you been here? How's the war going? You know, are we winning? You know, she was real optimistic. And then she said, I want your parents' name so that I can make contact with them. And he gave her the parents' name, but believed,
Right,
yeah, like this is never going to
Yeah.
happen. And then, you know, eventually she flew back to America and the war went on, and, you know, it was another, I think they left the Philippines and came back maybe November of 1945, early December. When he got home, his mother had this wonderful letter from Eleanor Roosevelt.
Wow.
And he had forgotten all about it, but he, you know, he was just thrilled that she would do that. And of course, you know, by that time FDR had died and Harry Truman was president. But he has viewed all of his life that there was never a better woman than Eleanor Roosevelt. There just couldn't have been a
Right.
finer soul. And he sort of jokes. He'll say, well, and she was married to Franklin D. Roosevelt. He'll say, you know, he's got a real soft spot in his heart for Franklin and Eleanor Roosevelt. What do you do hobby-wise when you're just kicking around wanting to do something fun?
That's the, about 5 years ago, I decided to become a personal trainer. Before then, I just want to cast back a little bit. Before that, my hobbies were handball, mountain bike riding, and scuba diving.
Ah.
But now,
But before you go on with
right.
the personal training, where have you dived? Have you dived in some exotic places?
oh no, not actually as much as I would have liked. I dived in most exotic probably is Thailand, and then several times. My favorite place is down in Cozumel, where it has wonderful reefs and very clear water. And Cabo San Lucas and off of La Paz, Mexico, in the Bay of Cortez. Now there is a place where it's quite unusual, but you see some really big animals in there.
We've snorkeled and we have children who dive. We have never dived, but everybody says there's just another world under the water.
The thing is that it's a sense of freedom, because gravity almost is neutralized, and you can very easily just change your elevation relative to, you know, the bottom of the water that you're in, simply by breathing. And it's sort of like, oh, you just think about where you want to go.
That's
and you
fun.
go there.
That's a fun thought.
It is, that's it. And so, and I took Margaret, speaking of snorkeling, when we first got together in the late 90s, I was, you know, determined to try to get her into the water. She swims. That swimming is her main activity for recreation. So she swims at the YMCA, which is, the YMCA is the only swimming pool in the city of Laramie that has a lift to get people in and out of the water. So when we came to Sacramento, we searched all around to find where we could go swimming, and that was where we found one. So that's where we are.
Okay, now let's jump forward to your personal training.
Oh, right. So after a while, I decided that it was either too hard on my body to play handball, too expensive to go scuba diving. The mountain biking I could still do, I guess, but I hurt myself quite a bit crashing on the mountain bike. I decided to start going into the gym and just do bodybuilding, weightlifting, the kind of what I used to think was just really boring workout kind of stuff. And after I got started with that a while, I realized that my background kind of made me quite knowledgeable in doing that. And people were asking me, to help them with training. And then I decided I'd get certified. So I got certified to become a personal trainer and got a job at the YMCA since we were, members there anyway. Might as well get paid to go to the same place.
As we're wrapping up, let me ask you a couple of questions. Where do you think God is as it relates to individuals in the world? Where can they find Him?
Well, I think God's intention is to bring everybody into His embrace. That His hope is that He will be able to create what He had wanted to start with, back with Adam and Eve, and that is a human family that He can visit and be with at any time on this earth, and that He's just going to keep working to bring that about, and sooner or later, I think it's going to happen.
And have you found God?
Yes, I've found God, but I always think that it's a process for most of us at any rate, that I found God, but I think I can get closer to Him and allow Him to get closer to me.
Thank you for being here. It's nice to visit with you.
All right, good.
Take care.
Thank you. Right.